Hey art nerds, happy merry belated, it's not Christmas anymore. Today we're going to be talking about Alkali Creek's advent calendar. So before we dive into the box, I want to give a disclaimer. This isn't going to be your typical easily influenced sort of video. Alkali and I, or Miranda and I, are not particularly big YouTubers. I am not looking to do any sort of investigation. I'm not looking to do any sort of a deep dive. We have corresponded once and she seems like a lovely person. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, but my intention for this box is different than my intentions with the Let's Make Art box or some of the other sort of advent calendars that I have reviewed. It seems to me like this box was made because Alkali Creek's fans wanted a good advent calendar of art supplies, and it was recommended to me, or it came up rather, in my art-centric Discord server, the Paint Box. Rebecca was talking about how this seems like it's a good box, but that we've all been burnt by a lot of art supply advent calendars before, so they were kind of hesitant about this particular box. Not because of anything that Miranda said or Alkali Creek said, just because art supply advent calendars have been more of a miss than a hit. She linked it, I checked it out, it sounded really good. It actually sounded like everything I've been kind of just looking for in an art supply advent calendar, and I have very low impulse control and decided to check it out. Miranda reached out to me and basically expressed that if I have any questions to let her know. I said that I would do that. And so this is going to be a very gentle unboxing because I realize Miranda's a little bit bigger than I am on YouTube, but we're at a similar sort of scale, and I know what is possible for me and what I have access to at the scale that I'm at, and it isn't the sort of bulk price sourcing that I would expect from larger creators. If we can hit the 10 items on the Blick deal thing, that's considered a win. So my expectations for this box are going to be that it is curated, that there was care put into the box, but I'm not really going to be talking a whole lot about the price or the prices of the individual items, because I'm going to assume that Miranda is giving the best price possible for her viewers and those who are interested in this box, but also not looking to lose any money on this box. And there are all sorts of things about putting together something like this that have surprisingly high costs. Anybody who's done a Kickstarter or shipped Christmas presents will be aware of that. So for this, we're actually not really going to be looking at the prices, and I wanted to be upfront with you guys because that is something that typically is very much what I do, is we talk about the prices and whether the value is worth it. This is basically an artist putting together an art supply advent calendar for other artists to enjoy, and that's kind of the scale that I'm going to be looking at it at. Another thing that made me interested in this box is that my own viewers have started requesting that I put together an art supply advent calendar. In past years, it's been kind of like a low rumble request. This year it was a much louder request, and it is a lot of work. It is a lot of labor. It is a lot of responsibility. So I said I would think about it, but I'm not committing to it. And I was kind of curious about how somebody a little bit bigger than me with a little bit more viewership than I have, how they're going about doing it. So it is kind of like an easily influenced in that regard, in that I'm going to be looking at a larger creator and seeing what I can positively learn from them that I can bring into my own work. So this was purchased right before Christmas. I honestly didn't expect to get it before Christmas, and I did. I got it about 3 days before Christmas, and I've held it till now because I am exhausted, and because in the listing, and we'll talk about the listing in a little bit, it says that it can be enjoyed at Christmas time or basically any time of year, and I decided to take her up on that and give myself some rest, take a little bit of a break, and just also to like remove the curtain, okay? I realize that these videos may give other creators, particularly creators who are in the same size bracket as I am, a lot of anxiety. That really isn't my intention. It is my intention to look at art supplies and look at what other creators are doing and kind of talk about that. Unfortunately, a lot of these videos were a little bit more sour than I had really hoped. I was really hoping there would be a lot of praise in these videos. So I understand that these kind of reviews could, especially for someone with an anxiety problem like myself, and somebody who is smaller and who genuinely does have more to lose from negative criticism, I realize it could cause a lot of anxiety. And Miranda did say that open to feedback, both positive and negative. And while I do plan on giving that, and I plan on giving it in as constructive and helpful a way as possible, just as I would give any other artist who requested my feedback or constructive criticism, that it's going to be a very gentle review, just out of respect that we're the same kind of size fish in the same kind of pond. But I also kind of held it so that Miranda could just enjoy the Christmas season and not be worried about something like this. Although, having not yet opened it, I figure that I will say pretty much all good things. Now, I did write something after corresponding with Miranda that I want to just read for you guys. I am going to probably end up covering or retreading some old soil. Rebecca shared the link for this box in the paint box, and after reading the description, it sounded like it'd be fun and interesting since Alkali Creek is a fellow artist and art YouTuber. Honestly, this box sounds like what I'd wanted the Let's Make Art box to be. And so many of my community really want a good art supply / art activity advent calendar. I think many of them would like me to do one, and while I'd be happy to put together a list of some activities, the idea of organizing, buying, selling, and shipping advent calendars myself is a little terrifying. On like a little side note, I am one of those people who really struggle with Christmas time, and I typically don't like this time of year very much. I try to be festive, I try to be upbeat, but I do actually really struggle with it. So the idea of even just shipping out an advent calendar in that time frame is a really overwhelming thought to me. So I have a lot of respect to Alkali Creek for putting this together and getting it out so quickly, especially at a time of year that is incredibly hectic. Hello, Boy wanted to join us. Incredibly hectic for a lot of people. Miranda emailed me shortly after I purchased and asked if I wanted to wait till the next day to see what was in the box in case you don't need to be up here. You don't. No, you can be on my lap, but you don't need to be on my table. In case I change my mind, because she was actually releasing the video of everything that's in this box. So you guys probably already know what's in this box. I wanted to do a blind reaction because when I like things, I tend to give a big react, which could be very helpful to another small business. And I'm hoping that I'm going to like this. So I'm hoping we're going to have a big positive reaction. She also mentioned being open to feedback, and I'm mentioning this at the top because one, I really appreciate her giving me the opportunity to see if this box was a good fit for me, especially since the reveal would be released the next day, and two, being interested in feedback for improvement rather than just trying to cancel the order or trying to shut me down. We emailed back and forth a little bit, and she seems like a lovely person, so I'm going to reframe how I do things a little bit. I'm not going to assume things were purchased or available in bulk or at bulk prices because they were not. So when pricing things, I actually decided I'm not going to do the pricing at all. We're just going to enjoy this box. It's just going to be like a nice little Christmas present to ourselves. I'm going to provide directed growth mindset feedback and critique, knowing the critique will be heard and considered by the person who put together this box. So while reviews are for consumers, please keep in mind that Miranda is interested in improving the box and that next year's may show growth on this year's. So even if there's things we don't like about this box, she is taking that feedback into consideration, and that the next year's box will be even better. She also gave me the go-ahead to shoot back questions I might have, and while this will be the first time I've actually had the opportunity to find out more information from the source about the hows and whys, like in the process of making the video, not the opportunity is presented to me after the video is already out, but like we can actually kind of include some of that in this video, and I think that's pretty cool. I also have a lot of respect for creators who just go for it and make/release the sort of things they'd like to see in the world, or the sort of things they'd like to sell, rather than waiting on a brand deal. And as I mentioned above, I also realize there's a lot of work and planning involved in doing this single-handedly for your community. So I am coming into this unboxing from a place of respect, and hopefully I can help spread some buzz, help spread some interest, because I know a lot of you guys are interested in good art supply advent calendars. So I'm really hoping this can be a good fit for everyone. So it arrived fairly quickly in this red box. There's not a lot of shaking going on, so it sounds like it was fairly well packed. It has been sealed, and I apologize that we're doing this very differently. My desk is currently covered in this watercolor painting here. And it's super cute, and it's almost done, but it's not done yet. And I really just didn't feel like cleaning off my desk for, you know, to do an unboxing, only to have to put everything back on the desk when a painting is so close to being done. I do not have a video for that painting. That painting is for me. I did it because I wanted to do it. All right, so it is pretty simple to open. And let me do the reveal for you guys. Everything seems like it is in envelopes. We have a letter. Hi Becca, thank you for ordering the watercolor gift box. I hope you enjoy the curation, and let me know if you have any questions. Heart, Miranda. Ooh, that's neat. So it's a postcard, and it looks like it's been printed on the Etcher cotton. They do postcards, and that's neat because I have friends who do their prints at home, but I hadn't thought to use this kind of paper, so that's cool. All right, all of these are in labeled plastic envelopes. Day 1, day 2. I believe this is a 12-day calendar. I may have to adjust the viewing angle. By the way, this Christmas tree is staying up at least until Epiphany. I am in Southeast Louisiana. I might turn it into a Mardi Gras tree. It is a white tree after all, so y'all might see this tree for a little while. That's just like kind of a thing down here. I believe we have 12 days, so they've all been individually sealed. They all have their day number on them. I believe for like, I watch, as I mentioned before, a lot of Alexandria Ryan's advent calendar stuff, and there's been a number of calendars that have not been like labeling their days. Oh, we have a bonus day, and the bonus day was actually included, unlike some of the other ones we've looked at where it was promised and never received. All 12 of these days fit neatly in this red box. So what you could do is just one day at a time, pull it out and open it. Whether you want to share this with another artist or a younger artist in your life, or it's a gift for someone else, or it's a gift for yourself because you've worked hard and you know what you like. Almost made a comment. I watch a lot of TikTok, and I've been getting a lot of TikTok videos from female and femme and women presenting people who get nothing for, they do all the shopping, they buy for everyone, and they don't receive anything in return for Christmas, which is rough. Like I've been there, and that is really depressing. So I like to buy myself little gifts sometimes because I know what I like. I know what I've been eyeballing. And if you are an artist in that position, this could be one such a gift. Should you have to buy your own gifts? No, but if there's something you like, you could. It is an option. So we're gonna start with day 1. Rather than ripping, okay, so something nice, and I should have noticed this because I can reuse these because I am cheap. They're not sealed, they're sticker sealed. So you could just, I was gonna cut them open. You could just open the sticker and then still reuse the bag. So this is day 1. Inside, oh, there's actually a lot inside day 1. Give me a sec, because I had started to cut it. Whoa, there's a lot. Dang, there is a lot inside day 1. Off to a good start. We have a Princeton Aqua Elite brush in size 12. We have what looks like a roll. Dang, that's a good size roll of artist tape. I am not yet sure what this is, but it looks sticky. We have an explainer, which I'll take a look at that in a minute, but I want to go through everything. We have a candy. We have some more of the little stickies. I'm gonna set all this aside. I'm glad I went and got like a little mini table. We have, these are very cute. These look like oh, it's books! Are you kidding? All right, they're on watercolor paper. They're very cute. I think they're bookmarks. It says books I've read, title, and then rating, because a lot of us artist people are also booky people. I am definitely a bookish person. We have 3 of those. It's on nice watercolor paper too. Like I feel like it is, wow, dropping things. I feel like it was homemade. Nothing wrong with that. I love it because it opens you up to interesting things. It's on pretty sturdy watercolor paper, and there is a decal edge. We also have 3 pre-cut sheets of, I would say 140 pound cotton rag watercolor paper. And we also have a sheet here that says January 2024. So we are going to read the welcome to day 1. What's in store for you today? So many fun things. You received 1 Princeton Aqua Elite paintbrush. It is one of her favorites. 1 roll of artist masking tape. Several strips of score tape. Keep this safe. We will use this later too. 1/2 pan of Da Vinci's Payne's Gray. Okay, that is not in here, but maybe, let me just check. I'm not seeing it. Oh, what I thought was a candy is the Payne's Gray. All right, okay. Thought I was kidding. I was about to pop that in my mouth. I'm so glad I didn't. Don't eat watercolor paint, y'all. It is very cutely wrapped. It looks like candy in green foil, and it is labeled. So it says Payne's Gray, Da Vinci, and then it has the pigment information. Put that to the side. And while Da Vinci does do pans, I don't know that they do half pans. So this kind of strikes me as a like home-filled pan as part of this project. Fabriano 100% cotton watercolor paper, 1 5x8 sheet and 2 6. Wow, I got a little extra then because I got 3 bookmarks, and I think I got 3 sheets and a January calendar backing page. What activities do you get to do today? Paint and assemble the January calendar page, and then paint 2 fun bookmarks. And there are instructions and video links for this. I am, for the time being, we're just going to take a look at what's in each day, and then I'm going to put it back for each day. Now, one of the smart things, in my opinion, about this is a lot of this stuff has been like homemade and curated. And what is smart about that is I can't just go, I wasn't going to do this with this one anyway, but because there's this handmade element to it, I'm not just going to go to Blick or wherever and find the closest match, because when something is handmade, that is added value, that's added curation, that's added time, that's added taste. So that really ups the value, in my opinion. It also means that these are kind of new projects. They were developed for this, maybe based on existing projects, nothing wrong with that. But I really like that a lot of this was put together and thought up by Miranda. It wasn't just, here's some art supplies, good luck, and it wasn't just, I don't want to say here's some existing projects I've done, because that has value too. But a lot of the people in my server were talking about wanting both art supplies and projects, and already we're off to a good start. So we have a URL for full instructions, and there's also video links. So I am going to put this back into day 1. Already, I think we're off to a good start. Now I do want to be careful about the little half pan, so I'm just going to make some space and set it aside so that it doesn't get paint all over everything. It shouldn't, but I've already unwrapped it. So here is day 2. Very easy to open. I don't have to fight it. We are going to, ooh, okay. All right. I like this. Again, we have a little printed like menu. Going to put that down. This time I know it's not candy, so I'm going to put that down as well. We have a little empty watercolor tin or palette, and it looks like it's been spray painted on the top to be a mixing surface. I appreciate that attention to detail. We have what looks like a swatch map. We have a sticker that I assume goes on the outside so you know what palette this is. Oh, by the end of all 12 days, I'll be able to actually like see what Alkali Creek Art's like palette looks like, right? And we can actually talk about those colors. I love stuff like that. We have one sheet of Fabriano, and we have oh, it's months of the year. All right. Okay, I think we're making a calendar. That's cute. Okay, so what's in store for you today? So many fun things. You received one watercolor palette, hand painted white inside the lid just for you. So that's going to be our mixing surface. One sticker to put on the outside of the palette, optional but fun. One swatch sheet to keep track of your paint colors as you receive them. One half pan of Da Vinci's cadmium yellow light. The Fabriano sheet and the swatch sheet and the Fabriano sheet are both Fabriano. And February's calendar backing page. So we're going to paint and assemble the February calendar page, and we're going to fill in the gray and our cad yellow on our swatch sheet. Again, we have a link, and it's not just like what I noticed with the Let's Make Art kit is like with some of those kits, she would just send us to like a hub page, and then we had to find what we were looking for. With this, it is a dedicated URL for each page of the calendar, and I appreciate that attention to detail. So we're going to open our not candy. Oh, these are generous pours too. Cad yellow light, so you guys can see, and PY35 light fastest 1, and then it says a 0. That's probably meant to, I would assume that is to indicate how opaque it is. 0 is an O. So every company does it differently, and that's okay. So I'm going to put this aside, and we're going to put today's goodies back into their little sleeve for safekeeping. Next up is day 3. And here's my not candy. Here is my menu. I will put that down. So it looks like we have some calendar stickers that say things like work hard, play hard, be your hero, be brilliant, stay focused, keep positive, be brave. I'm so proud of you. What's nice about these is these are optional. If that is not your vibe, you do not have to do them. We have, oh, these are cute. Okay, so we have what looks like 2 home printed postcards on arches, and I think it's art. Nope, that's the Fabriano. Okay, on the Fabriano, and I can tell this because the maker's mark is on it. Only on the back side though, so not on the side that you would be painting, but that is kind of a nice little authenticity touch that other artists will be like, nice, all right. And we also get a little bit of the decal edge, but not to the point where it disrupts the postcard. So we have 2 postcards. We have our larger sheet that would go on our month view. We have some little positive notes, and we also have our not candy. So, welcome to day 3. What's in store for you today? So many fun things. You received a sticker sheet with fun sayings on it. 1/2 pan of Da Vinci's Ultramarine Blue watercolor paint. Fabriano 100% cotton watercolor paper. 1 5x8 and 2 4x6 postcards. March's calendar backing page. What activities do you get to do today? We get to paint and assemble the March calendar page, and we get to paint 2 fun winter themed postcards. So again, for my friends who wanted advent calendars that are not just art supplies but activities, this is definitely going to give you that. And something that I like about this is that instead of just sending us a blank calendar with no projects, no ideas, no instructions, which for people who suffer from blank page paralysis or task initiation paralysis, can't do that. We have actual projects. They're broken up day by day, so you could choose to do it that day. You could choose to save them for a weekend. You could do them with somebody you care about. You could each do a calendar page. So I like that. I like also that all of the projects turn into one useful item, like a calendar. And then here is our Da Vinci Ultramarine Blue. I'm assuming we're going to be filling in our little watercolor swatches every day. It doesn't say that, but considering she mentioned it on day 2 and kind of got us starting with that, it's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, the gist that I'm getting. Okay, now we are on to day 4, which I can only assume is April. Ooh, that's a cute pink. So we have our Not Candy. We have our, I got 2 by accident. 2 of the instruction sheet. We received 2 postcards, and we received our calendar blank as well, our blank watercolor sheet, as well as our calendar blank. So let's see. What's in store for you today? So many fun things. You received 1/2 pan of Da Vinci's Permanent Rose Quinacridone watercolor paint, Fabriano cotton rag paper, 1 5x8 sheet and 2 4x6s. April's calendar page. So we're going to paint and assemble the April calendar page and paint 2 winter themed postcards. And the instructions are on the website as well. Let's check out our Quin Pink, or Rose rather. And while I like Da Vinci and I do have the mixing set, these are colors, some of these are colors I'm not super familiar with yet. So that's also kind of exciting for me. And I will also go out on a limb and say I really like Da Vinci paints. They are one of my favorite brands. I use their mixing palette often. So the watercolors are high quality, professional grade watercolors that you can use for lots of other projects, and I think you'll be pretty happy with. One thing I do want to point out is I might be wrong, I think she may have an advent calendar that has more kid-friendly, less toxic paints. Not that these are all super toxic, but just kid-safe paints for people who want to do this together with their kids. So the projects themselves are probably not particularly like adult-only oriented, but the paints may be a concern. Some of these colors are very staining if they get on the clothes, if they get on the little hands. So I believe she does have a family-friendly version as well, which I think is very smart. I love that idea, especially because a lot of you guys have told me that you like this kind of stuff so that you can do it with the young ones in your life. Wow, like the Jedi young. Anyway, the kids and kiddos in your life. This is day 5, so that would put us in May. Oh, okay, all right. We have a permanent marker. We have our paint. We have our instruction sheet. We have 2 postcards. We have our blank calendar illustration, and then we have our calendar printout. So our instructions say we have a fine point marker. a half pan of Da Vinci Sap Green, our 5x8 sheet, our 4x6 sheets, and May's calendar backing page. And then our activity is to paint and assemble the May calendar page, and then paint 2 thank you postcards. That's sweet. So another thing, she did say that this isn't necessarily Christmas, that you can do it any time of year. I like the inclusivity of that because it's more winter themed. So I wouldn't say you could do it any time of year. You might not. Maybe in the middle of summer you want to look at nice, cool, relaxing, icy things. I could see that. So like Christmas in July. But I also love that you can be any religion, belief, or creed and get some enjoyment out of this calendar. So here is our sap green, not candy. It does seem like in general she's tried to match the foil to like a hint at the color inside. It hasn't always been 100%, but it's been pretty close. And there is our sap green. Here is day 6. So you guys can probably tell this is very calendar themed. So if you enjoy calendars, if you would like to paint your own calendar, if you would like to do 12 probably monthly themed illustrations, this could be a really good fit for you. So inside we have our cutely wrapped not candy, our instruction sheet. We have some bookmarks with the books I read and the title and the rating. It reminds me of doing summer reading for prizes. In a good way. I love doing summer reading for prizes. Our watercolor sheet, our calendar blank. So this is our, we're on month 6, June. You received 1/2 pan of Da Vinci's Burnt Sienna Deep watercolor paint, our cotton rag paper, 1 5x8 sheet, and 2 2x6 pre-printed bookmarks, and June's, duh, Becca, you could have just looked down there, calendar backing page. What activities do you get to do today? We're going to paint and assemble the June calendar page and then paint 2 fun bookmarks. So if you are the sort of person who wants to do this month by month, you definitely could. You could just write the month name on the bag and just put it back in the box and just pull it month by month if that's how you want to start your month. Hello, Bowie. And then here is our Burnt Sienna Deep. Now we are on to day 7. I think that would put us at July. So we've moved out of the winter theme bookmarks. So maybe the winter theme bookmarks were just for wintry months. We have our instructions. We have our not candy. We have 2 postcards. Maybe we're going on vacation. We've got our watercolor paper for our illustration and our calendar backing board. And we have our instructions. What's in store for you today? So many fun things. We have a 1/2 pan of cobalt turquoise. So beautiful color. I love that color. Very summer. Cobalt's one of the ones you don't want to do with your kiddos. So again, I think she has a kid-friendly set. If you have kiddos, that might be a good option to go. Mostly this is just going to be toxic if you get it on your hands, like all over your hands. If you eat it, if you drink the water by accident, if anything like that. So like a 12-year-old who's pretty responsible, who isn't going to do those things, who's going to take it seriously when you say don't do those things, this could be an okay fit. We have our 5x8 sheet and our 2 4x6 postcards. We have July's calendar backing page. We're going to paint and assemble the July calendar page, and we're going to paint 2 winter postcards. I was hoping for summer postcards. Honestly, y'all know I live in Louisiana. It is 70 degrees out there right now, and it is December 25th when I'm recording this part. So this is a bias, but winter for us is real weird. I could be painting summer postcards right now. It almost feels like summer. The sky is this beautiful shade. In fact, the sky is probably the same shade of blue as we have in our paint. Ooh, that's pretty. It is very pretty. So that is our day 7. So one suggestion I would make is to, and this is extra work, I understand that, but it could be good for next year. For the summer months, since this is like you could do this year round, just include like an alternative summer tutorial. Like, so you could do the winter ones and then also include, and like if you're feeling summery, if you're tired of the cold, that kind of thing. Here is day 8. Alrighty. We have, so you guys definitely get the theme of this. So what I'm going to do from this point on is I am only going to point out the things that are different. So in this one, I received 3 of the calendar backing sheets, or 3 of the same. And to be fair, she only mentions 1. I think she's padding in extra ones sometimes because people make mistakes. And it would be nice to have some spare pages so you can redo it if you didn't like how it turned out. And I appreciate that. It's a nice little bonus. Didn't have to do it, but that attention to detail and that thinking about your audience and their needs and what's going to make them more comfortable is a wonderful thing to do. So we have a half pan of Da Vinci Red. We have 1 5x8 sheet. I received 3. She may be padding them in randomly too, so you may not get 3 in the same month that I got 3. And then August calendar backing page. We are going to paint and assemble the August calendar page, and then we're going to relax a little bit because we've been working hard. We've been doing a lot of painting. There's probably days where we got 2 postcards where maybe you only got around to doing 1 of them. This could be a good day to do the other if you want to. Or maybe the bookmarks, you could do 1 of them today instead. Or you probably got your own stuff you want to be working on. And then she also has the links again. So I'm probably going to repeat myself a lot, but I do like that the links are all unique. All unique links to each day. And then these are all very beautifully wrapped. There's a nice attention to detail. Ooh, 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 ooh. It stuck a little bit, but I managed to salvage most of it. I do, as I mentioned, live in Louisiana. It has been humid, and Da Vinci is one of those beautiful paints that reactivates very quickly. It's very hydrophilic, so it's very prone to absorbing air moisture. Here is our day 9. So we can disagree on this. One route I might take differently is this is a lot of plastic. I might go for those glassine or craft paper bags, and that would just make it a little bit more like if you have a compost heap, you could put the craft paper bags in the compost heap after. That said, these are reusable because she just did the stickers. She didn't seal them, so you could actually use it to send off other things or protect. These might be good for protecting art, especially if you pop like a silica packet in there. Oh, all right. So this is day 9. We get a little bit more in day 9. We have a fun little calculator pencil that says you are unique. Let's see, 9 would be September. A lot of kids are going back to school in September, so we got a little back to school theme going. Ooh, we have a little sketchbook, little handmade sketchbook or zine. We have our instruction sheet. I'm gonna put that down here. We have a little pencil sharpener to go with our pencil. We have our little knot candy, and then we have our 5x8. So we received a mini sketchbook 4x4. I am betting it is handmade. A pencil with a happy thought on it, and mine says you are unique. A pencil sharpener, a half pan of Benzimita Orange Deep, our 5x8 sheet, and September's calendar backing page. We are going to paint and assemble the September page and decorate the sketchbook cover. So cute little handmade sketchbook. I love stuff I say former zinester. I just haven't been making zines recently. Love that kind of stuff. And the pencil definitely brings up like back to school you thought, and I say that with like love in my heart, like, you know, like third grade, first day of school, teacher gives out pencils. And then our little half pan. I also want to point out a lot of this is very hand done, right? Like the half pans are hand poured and they have little bitty labels on them, and then they are individually wrapped. The paper was, even if using a paper cutter, it was still cut. So there is a lot of labor that goes into hand making something and hand assembling something that a lot of people don't really think about. And then every day has a tutorial as well, which is definitely going to up the value because making tutorials takes time. And I know there are people out there who think they shouldn't have to pay for what they can find on the internet for free. I will say pay what you can, you know, like, because it does take time and energy and love and experience and effort and resources to make these tutorials. So for my friends who were looking for advent calendars with activities in it, this could be a good one. So my October, the paper's a little damaged, but she did send some extra paper for me, so not really a big deal. We received one sheet of paper and our October. We also received our Not Candy. And we received, it says, a half pan of Da Vinci's Hansa Yellow Light, our Fabriano 100% cotton watercolor paper, 5x8, our October calendar backing page. Paint and assemble the October calendar page, and then we get a sketchbook activity for our mini sketchbook. So not only has she come up with calendar activities, postcard activities, bookmark activities, but now sketchbook activities. So for those of you who are looking to get into art, this is a really gentle start with some good tutorials for it. So again, she has the link. And then here is our Hansa Yellow Light. And that's going to be a pretty little palette. We are just too shy of having our palette finished. Here is day 11. So November, right? We're thinking November. Another thing you could do, you could open all of these up in December, and you could do the postcard activities that strike your fancy. You could put together your little palette, and then if you want to, you could do each month at the start of the month as kind of like a good way to move into that month. And then it would be fun to compare how much your watercolor has improved from January to the next December. So we have a half pan of raw umber. We have one 5x8 sheet and two 4x6 postcards. We have our November calendar page. We are going to paint and assemble the November calendar page and then paint two thank you postcards. So here is our umber, raw umber. And we have really nice full fills. So a note about this, right? When you fill a half pan, when you guys see me fill a half pan, it will settle down. It doesn't really fill the half pan. That is fine for my palette. I will top it off. But when you're selling half pans, whether you're making the watercolors or you're doing something like this, you want to fill it and let it dry, fill it and let it dry. Some will even do like 3 fills. You see how full these are? It looks like she gave it multiple fill and dry, which that is so much time. That is so much care. That takes up space in your home. I really appreciate that attention to detail. So for day 12, this is our last of the months. We have a half pan of Da Vinci Violet. We have our Fabriano month sheet, and we have our calendar backing page. Our activity is to paint and assemble the December calendar page. And then we have, and it is wrapped in a purple wrapper, which makes it, you know, It's cute. They're so cute. They're very, I really did think they were candy at first. That's why I set it aside. I was like, I don't want to be eating candy live. Well, not live, but recording. So nice full pan that gives us a 12 color palette. We will look at that in a little bit. Carefully, I am going to put these back. And then finally, just in time, because my light is changing and I can tell, we have our bonus day. There's a little something in our bonus day. Our day 13, if you will. Ooh, there's more in a little something. Oh, cool. So for our bonus, we received a half pan of Da Vinci Cerulean Blue Genuine, a swatch sleeve for the watercolor palette, since we have now completed our palette that I believe we received on day 2. We have two pieces of 100% cotton Khadi, and I haven't actually played around with Khadi. I played around with Shizan watercolor paper. So we're going to paint our final swatch sheet, and we're gonna play with our Khadi paper. She says that it is incredibly unique, and it is. It does not have, it's a softer paper, right? Kind of floppy. And then we have instructions and video links for our 13th day. So that's a little, if you, depending on how you do Advent, because remember we talked about that a little bit in our, in the Let's Make Art calendar, like depending on how you do Advent, if you even do Advent at all, which if you don't, that's fine. You could start on day 1 of December, or you might just start on day 12 and then finalize it on the 24th or the 25th day of December. Or you may just decide to do it however works for you. Maybe you receive this as a Christmas present and you're starting on Christmas Day. That's fine. So I am going to repack all of our days back in the box, keep them safe. I forgot what day our little permanent marker was in. It did not get put back. And then here is our cerulean blue. Very pretty. And I think that actually gives us 13 colors. So this setup is not super great for swatching those colors and taking a look. We're not going to look at, I'm not going to spoil her activities. I'm not going to like show you all the nuts and bolts of them. I just want to get kind of a gist for what they're going to include and how in depth they are, and then I can talk about them a little bit with you guys, but I don't want to spoil them, especially if you're thinking of buying this. I don't ever want to take money out of another artist's pocket, especially with something like art kits, where a spoiler might mean somebody decides they don't want to pay for it because they don't need to pay for it now. So I'm not going to show that, but I am going to talk about it a little bit. So I am going to go back over to my studio and we're going to take a look at the desktop. So here is the desktop view, so you guys can have a better look at what came in this box. Here are all the hand poured half pans, 1 per day. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to show you each day. It just kind of in quiet, since we already talked about it, so you guys can get a better look at, you know, what comes in each day, since we were doing things a little bit more unusually earlier. time to swatch these watercolors and see how the palette comes together. I have pretty high hopes for this though. As I mentioned earlier, Da Vinci's great watercolors. I really like Da Vinci, so no complaints there. And the color selection, while a little bit different from maybe my own personal color selection, makes a lot of sense as a mixing palette, as like being able to paint a variety of things with a limited number of colors palette. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm gonna try swatching with the Princeton Aqua Elite. I say try because it's a 12, it's pretty big, and these are pretty small. So you may see me switch out for a smaller brush, but I'm definitely going to give it a shot. One suggestion, not really a complaint, but since these are going in a small metal palette, attaching the magnet to the bottom or including one of those pre-cut magnet pads on day one would make it just a little bit easier to pop these in. It's not really a problem. You can use some double stick tape. You can even use some washi tape, or you can glue magnets on, but it would, in my opinion, it would elevate it just a little bit more. However, it doesn't really need that, and I don't know that everyone would appreciate that inclusion, but it is a thought that would make it just a little bit nicer without really increasing the price too much. These took a while to dry, but I actually really like the color selection. And I feel like if you're doing landscapes, these really lend themselves well to that, or like sky paintings. We've got a lot of really beautiful colors that would work well for that. What surprised me is I actually ended up liking this Princeton Aqua Elite. I feel like they've kind of redeveloped it a little bit so that it has a really, really long point, and that leaves a lot of room for a belly. There's still some trouble with water control for me with those. I'm also just like not the biggest when it comes to synthetic brushes, but I 100% understand why she went with a synthetic rather than with natural hair fibers. Like, the thing about synthetics is most people will like or dislike synthetics, but they aren't going to have like ethical qualms with a synthetic, whereas with natural hair brushes, there are a lot of people who do have qualms with natural fibers and how they are acquired. So this is a choice that makes a lot of sense for me. Next, I am going to go ahead and put our half pans into our little palette. I'm going to mention again that she sprayed the lid to make a mixing surface. I think that's a really nice touch. Now, these kind of little tins are pretty easily available in bulk, but it was this little attention to detail, just finishing out the lid like that, that really kind of, it's those kind of touches that I like to see. And also, having made my own mega palette, I know what a pain in the butt spray paint on metal can be. So huge respect
to her for masking them off and doing these. At least, I think she did at least 10 and then did another round of 10. So she had to do like 20 of these. And having struggled to do just one of them, I have a lot of respect for her being able to do this. And yeah, big ups. So we have day one in front of us, and I kind of wanted to do what, unfortunately, the way I handled this other thing, you guys will not have seen it yet, so you just get to bear with me. I kind of want to handle this the way I did with Sarah Cray's floral workbook, or with her art kits, where I show you guys what I'm doing and I take notes on what the presentation is like and how easy it is to follow, but I'm not showing you a one-to-one because, as I said, I really don't want to spoil this for other people who might be interested in purchasing this calendar. So I have day one here. We have the January, we have the bookmarks. I'm kind of thinking, I'm not sure yet which of these I'm going to do. I can paint and assemble the January calendar page. I can paint 2 fun bookmarks. So I have some options. So what I think I'm going to do is also I have the benefit of having the palette fully assembled rather than just working with one day. So I will make note of whether the projects are geared towards 1 to 2 colors or whatever colors you might have available by that point in the calendar, or if it's assuming that you went ahead and opened all the days and you're going back in time, because I do think that is a valid point. So I'm going to go ahead and get going with that. This is where day one's link led us. So we have 2 videos. I did think she said, it says on the page full instructions and video links. So one suggestion I have to improve this, and this is actually based on something I hear from members of my audience, is there are people who can't follow video instructions and would really benefit from photo and then written instructions. So in the future, having both, and you could even have it like, you don't have to have it on your site if you don't want to. You could have a link and it be like a Notion or even just a Google Doc, but having that a different way of following the instructions would probably be very beneficial for people who just have certain learning differences. And I mention that because I learned that way also, but also, like I said, a lot of my audience say they benefit from written instructions with photos, and many lament the loss of the art tutorial blog post. So that's a direction I want to move back into. And I think that can make this a lot more accessible to more people. I'm also going to note, this looks like it's designed to use the Payne's Gray. So I do like that that month, that day of activity, that utilizes the one color that we had, rather than requiring a bunch of other paints or all of the paints together. So I love that if you're doing the advent calendar in day order, you can still complete the activities. That's a very thoughtful touch, and I really appreciate it.
Let's start with the January project. The instruction for this is very sweet and friendly. There's a top-down view, so it's easy to see.
She seems excited for the box, which is fantastic. She walks you through what you should expect for each day. The brushes that came in these advent calendars ranged from size 8 to size 12. We're both working with a size 12, so they made it a little bit easier for me to follow along. The finished art, which she flashes from time to time, but there isn't a static image on the site or in the video, which would have been really helpful as a reference. The finished art seems accessible, but also a bit challenging. I'm not a landscape person, so this will be a fun challenge for me. She's using artist tape to adhere the half pan to her table. She doesn't actually set up the palette until around like day 2, day 3. And I'm not going to show all that because we're not doing every month. Apparently, you could have also gotten the core palette, and she has alternate instructions for how to use those, which I think is neat. I feel like if she had included a ref of the finished postcard that we could refer to on the page, that would be really helpful. It is shown in the video, but it can be kind of hard to see, so having it as a static image or something we could download would have been nice. This might be a dorky suggestion, but including a piece of chipboard and that laminated sheet that she shows would be helpful for beginner artists, especially since she was kind enough to include the tape. My tape leaked. I'm also not super used to snow, so I don't really know what this looks like. I'm just kind of doing a copy of a copy, which tends not to go well for me. Some inspiration or reference would be helpful. I probably could just Google it, but it's hard for me to both have my reference up and also paint along with her because she is moving kind of fast. I couldn't see that she did 2 background hills because her pencil sketch was so light, so maybe like a line art to show what the base sketch would look like would be helpful. I struggle with capturing pencil sketches in my video, so I get it. And this is kind of a new technique for me. It's neat, but if she'd done a little mini demo at the start, like this is the main techniques we'll be doing, it would have given me an idea of what to expect, so I'm not trying to keep up with her video while also painting. This might be on me though. I could have just watched the whole video first. I'm also not good about doing these sort of isolated technique explainers, so that could be an area of improvement for me as well. The size 12 synthetic brush is pretty drippy and challenging to control, but that's a me and synthetic things, not a Miranda/Alkali Creek thing. I do like that Princeton has given their Aqua Elites a longer tip though. That's fun. I really struggled with painting the trees because 1, we really don't have those kind of firs here, so I'm not super sure what they look like, and 2, if she'd had her reference, the first completed landscape, as a static image off to the side, I could have had a better idea of what the trees should look like while I'm painting them. And 3, I'm struggling with water control with this kind of brush. Some of these are me issues. I don't have great visual memory, and I do rely on thumbnails, sketches, and photos, and some of these are pretty easy to address and would make this a smidgen more accessible. It's not a super big deal, it's just a suggestion, and I learned several techniques while doing this, so I think that's fun, and I appreciate getting to paint along with Miranda. This reminds me that I really should get to the city park and learn how to caricature our own native trees. And hers looks a lot better than mine, so don't take this as a tutorial. She's going to do a better job teaching this than I possibly could. So I set this aside and I began working on April's packet. So that would be the 4th packet.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and we're going to check out April's theme next. So one little compliment I want to give her, and this might seem like a weird compliment, is the way she has written her URLs. You literally just have to change the number at the end to get to the next day, which for someone like me, queen of 10 million tabs, I can just leave it open and on the next day, I can just change one number and get to the next. So we're taking a look at April. I think that means we have 4 cards. This looks gorgeous. I'm really excited to try painting this. As I mentioned earlier, I don't really do landscapes. So I am really glad that this is kind of landscape heavy because that's an area of weakness for me and I have a lot of room to learn. So it also kind of gives me the opportunity to be a beginner again and to also learn some skills that I might not yet have.
So for April, she walks you through what's in your packet for each day and has a very friendly personality. So it's kind of like a little treat. Like if you were having a really hectic holiday season, this could be a relaxing little treat to unwind. She also shows us the difference between the Da Vinci and the core swatches. She set her palette up a little bit differently than I did. I might have to redo mine. And she uses the score tape to tape down the half pans. I thought that'd be for the calendar pages, like to attach your illustrations to the calendar backings. Maybe like a written description for each item, like how to use them, would have been helpful as an inclusion, especially for people who may not be watching the videos. I did all my swatch cards out of order. It's in order of the days, but that works for what I'm doing here, and that works for me at this time. She also shows us some mixes we can do with the first 4 colors. That's really nice and thoughtful, and it would be very helpful for a beginner. Having this as a static reference on the page would probably be helpful, but after 12 days of this, that might be a lot of work. I do like that she's explaining this because it makes it accessible to a newer watercolor artist. I really feel like Da Vinci ought to give her a collab or a sponsorship because she is hand selling their paints. So I have to say, because she's very familiar with these, it seems like she has done at least one demo before painting the one she recorded for the tutorial, that she moves way, way, way faster than I do. And that's not in time lapse. And it's really hard for me to keep up, especially since I only have a vague visual memory of what we're going for. A static side reference here would be super helpful, and I do really wish that she had also included written instructions with photos. I'd kind of gotten the gist that there would be both video and written instructions. I was kind of frantically trying to keep up and really struggling to do so. Maybe I flew too close to the sun with trying to skip months. Maybe she builds on techniques. Mine does not look like hers, and it looks kind of rough. I wish she would have included an estimated time on the included printout so you knew how much time to carve out for this. Having chapters put into the video, like with using timestamps, would also be helpful in knowing how long each part should take and what parts are coming up. Now I know some of y'all, particularly those who take adult classes, let me get the intonation right here. Now I know how some of y'all, particularly those who take adult classes, feel when painting along with me. Yikes. It can be difficult to know how much extra time a beginner needs when you've been doing it for years, and it's definitely hard to know how much extra time a beginner needs when you're recording it for a silent audience like YouTube. I'm not complaining or judging, I am just commiserating and grateful for this chance to see how the shoe fits on the other foot. I feel like mine just made a mess. Loose sunset and cloudy skies over water are definitely a weakness I could work on. Dang. If I were painting at my own pace, I'd have some reference photos to aim for. I feel like I'm painting blind with this. A static image of the finished painting or photos to reference would have been so helpful for me. My April does not look nearly as good as hers. Seeing the reference would have been so helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and set this one aside to dry fully as well, and we're going to move on to August.
We're going to skip ahead again to August. And in this one, we have Fabriano, we have our month, and we have our instruction. So what are we doing? We are mostly painting the August calendar page. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. And I'm also going to grab another fresh piece of chipboard and clean out my palette from April. August is pretty straightforward. We have this really beautiful rainy night scene, and it looks like she's included the reference JPEG. I really appreciate this. I really struggled in January and in April because I'm very reliant on reference, and we apparently live in very different parts of the country. So Some of the sites that might be like everyday sites for her are very different from me. We just don't get a lot of snow down here. And while we have lots of fishing boats, we have like pirogues, we have motorboats, and we have shrimping boats, and they just look drastically different from what we painted in April. So having a reference that I can rely on, I really appreciate that. I would have loved to have seen this for every month.
So August is the only month that I encountered where reference was provided and I could actually set it up so that I could utilize the reference. Now I selected the month semi-randomly. I'm just trying to get some distance in between months, so the projects were randomly selected to kind of get an idea of what the tutorials look like. I didn't cherry pick for specific colors. I didn't cherry pick for specific topics. I kind of went in blind. The reference she provided is AI generated and the perspective is really wonky. So while she suggests using a ruler for the guidelines, I'm just going to kind of wing it because it was kind of wunged to begin with. Our dry times are pretty different, so what's working for her is not working for me. I'm at 44% relative humidity, so I guess my paper isn't really drying. I kind of wish instead of telling us what to do, she'd kind of explain how to think about it, but y'all know that is something I am always looking for. That is something I'm always requesting. It's something that I try to do in my own videos, so like that's always gonna be a problem when I'm encountering this kind of stuff. I want to get inside the other artist's head. I don't want to be told what to do. I want to be told how to think, or at least how to see. I'm not usually the sort of person who can just kind of go in and paint like this, so this is definitely a big stretch for me. My paper isn't dry enough to paint people at this stage, but I kind of went for it and it just kind of turned into Slender Man. They're just kind of disappearing into the rain. I also sketched the people too big. I'm not great at like gauging relative size this way, and usually need to do more of an undersketch, but I wanted to just try going for it since that's something out of my comfort zone. This is definitely an instance of it's okay to make bad art. Oh man, this ended up stressing me out so bad. I was having so much anxiety while doing this. I'm not sure why, other than like I'm racing to try to keep up and not really understanding what she's doing. There has definitely been some new techniques for me in this, but I feel like I'm trying to go as fast as I can to keep up, and I don't really have a chance to register them. Mine looks awful, by the way, and hers is much better, so please don't judge the project off of what you're seeing here. This also gives me a lot of perspective on being on the other end of a tutorial like this. Man, it can really cause anxiety. Written instruction would help slow things down a bit and maybe give people who are trying to learn new things more time to process. As I mentioned earlier, this is also something I very rarely, if ever, do. So it's definitely reminding me of some of my weaknesses that would benefit from more study. Now, all of this said, this is my third of these tonight. I kind of skipped around in the year, so if there's techniques that build on each other, I've done myself a disservice, and you shouldn't judge the box based on my struggles. If I were doing one per day in order, I might have learned the techniques well enough by now to be able to handle this without kind of freaking out. This just reminds me, though, that as much as I love watercolor and as comfortable as I've gotten with one specific thing, watercolor can be really challenging and frustrating and requires patience to pick it up. A humbling reminder, which was much needed. This kind of makes me want to exchange tutorial kits with another artist. I wonder if they'd pick up what I do easily, or if it would be just as much of a struggle both ways. So for August, we only received one thing to do, but believe me, you're going to be spending time doing it. It's best that we just got this one thing instead of 3 because it allows you to focus on this. I am so bad at water control with synthetics. This thing is dripping all over the place. I know a lot of folks like synthetics, so I think it's mostly a me thing since I'm more comfortable with mixed and natural fibers. Y'all can definitely tell I did not go to school for watercolor. If it ain't comics, it seems like my skill in watercolor ends there. For me, this thing is all ugly stage, and it's so frustrating. It's so tempting to throw in the towel, but this discomfort is good and important because even if this turned out poorly, I learned some things and learned some areas that I'd like to revisit and improve upon. Being bad at something is freeing in a way. You can always go up. For me, something like this would take more time than I devoted to it, and I'd need to go slower and be more deliberate than I'm able to be with this. I'm trying to keep pace with Miranda, but we have different dry times and made different choices because of that. So I'm going to let this dry thoroughly before removing the tape, and we're going to move on to the bonus day.
taken a look at 3 different months, January, April, and August. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to the very last day, the bonus day. I hope this isn't overly spoilerly. I mean, you know, more than anything else I've done. So inside, we have something a little bit different. It's not calendar pages this time. We received this color of paint, and we also received a different paper. We received the, this says bonus day. It says Fabriano. Okay, I see. That was the swatch sheet, sorry. The Cotty paper, and that's what I wanted to take a look at. So we have an activity for today that I wanted to try before I gave you guys my final thoughts on this advent calendar. Here is our bonus tutorial. It looks gorgeous. It looks like a landscape, and I'm really not good, as we are finding out, at landscapes, especially if I don't have the photo reference, and especially if I don't do it under drawing. So I'm excited for day 13, but oh my gosh, I have such trepidation because it's probably not going to be, I'm probably not going to be particularly good at this. But you know what? That's also kind of exciting. I didn't realize how bad I was at landscapes until I tried to do landscapes, and I realized that this is an area that I'd like to be better at because it would allow me to kind of freehand backgrounds for some of my illustrations. And I'm definitely all for that. I'm pretty comfortable with 1-point and 2-point perspective, particularly when I throw down those grids, which I do when I'm doing comic pages, but the ability to do a convincing, naturalistic background without having to like grid out everything is hugely helpful. I do wish she had talked about atmospheric perspective more as we were doing these landscapes. I didn't do every single day, so maybe she really got into it and I missed that. But I'm going to need to try to remember everything I know about atmospheric perspective and bring it into this while also following along with the tutorial. So I guess challenge accepted.
This is technically day 13, and this is the one where we are using the Cotty paper. I've never had a chance to use Cotty watercolor paper, so I'm excited for this one. This is another one where I wish she'd included a static reference. She has her reference off to the side where she can see it, but we can't. And when painting along, it's challenging to keep up and have that reference in mind. I did have an easier time following along though, because we're repeating the same techniques. I also appreciate that she mentions when she's using the heat gun. You could step away and let it dry or use a heat gun, but it helps to give you an idea of water control. I do like the Cotty paper. I've never tried it before. It's got some of the same qualities as Shizen, but it doesn't hold water forever like Shizen does, which may make it easier to work with. It definitely seems like a paper that needs support, like some chipboard or working on a clipboard like she was doing. You don't want to just have this one straight on your tabletop. This has been such a humbling experience for me. I am terrible at landscapes. For all those years that I lived in Nashville, I didn't really get to see the forest for the trees or the mountains for the hills. And living in Louisiana, it is flat, 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 and you can maybe see 20, 30, 40 feet in front of you, but that's not really great for landscapes. So I don't have this mental visual library of what landscapes, particularly hilly and mountainous landscapes, should be looking like. So I would have really benefited from some included reference and definitely would have benefited from some written instruction for this. Now, for the most part, I like her instruction. She's friendly and approachable. I feel like written instruction and photos in addition to the video would have been a huge help for someone like me. I have some learning differences and some disabilities, and it's a little bit harder for me to follow along a video like this. It's so hard to see where she's going and also paint at the same time, and I'm too impatient to watch it all the way through first and then paint, which might be the better way to do it. Photos would allow people to revisit certain things that they couldn't see clearly in the video because the moment passed. And there was a lot of demonstration that I missed because the moment passed or because her hand was kind of blocking what she was trying to show. I felt like for many of these tutorials, I was racing to keep up, and they reminded me in a very gentle and probably much needed way that I still have a lot to learn. I think the topics for all 3 months were interesting to paint and certainly not pandering, but I would have liked more reference photos to work from. This is an advent calendar for folks who like a challenge in their watercolor and don't mind making mistakes and failing while they learn new things. I would say it's a great fit for the brave, for the bored looking to be challenged, or for anyone interested in really stretching their watercolor wings.
These have had several days to dry, so I think it's finally safe to remove the tape. So we are going to go from January to bonus tape, removing our tape and hopefully revealing those crispy edges. So while I ended up with 4 finished watercolor illustrations, if you did the advent calendar from start to finish, you would have 13 of these such calendar illustrations. I'm not really good with paper calendars, so I'm just going to enjoy the illustrations and not worry about the calendar. Maybe I'll stick these in a watercolor sketchbook because they certainly were a learning opportunity for me, and they definitely helped me figure out a serious weak point that I really struggle with, and that would be landscapes. And I actually gave it some thought, And I realized growing up in Southeast Louisiana, you don't really get landscapes the way you do if you live in hilly or mountainous areas. We don't live right on a lake. If you live near a swamp, you might see like 4 to 10 feet in front of you, and then there's a bunch of trees. So that's been kind of like my lived experience with landscapes. But that doesn't mean I can't work on them, I can't improve them, I can't pick up some new skills, and it doesn't mean that I can't do some studies from my own photos and maybe create some Louisiana landscapes to kind of add to the conversation. So this was kind of a humbling experience for me, but that's good. I needed to be humbled. I needed to have my horizons and my landscapes broadened. So I think of it as a really positive experience. So you would have 13 of these calendar illustrations. Some days had bookmarks in addition to calendar illustrations. Many days had thank you cards in addition to calendar illustrations. So I don't have a final tally of how many illustrations you would have if you did every single activity, but I will say that this advent calendar has a lot of different activities, and there are some that might be better suited that are a little bit simpler for doing with young ones, especially if you were working with kid-friendly paints like Yarka or Prang, as well as some that are going to be more challenging and may hit you right in your weak point, which is sometimes a great thing. Sometimes that is exactly what you're looking for. I will say though, I do wish there had been written instructions. I do wish there had been more step-by-step photos. And I do wish she had included the reference, whether it is the illustration itself, because she's working from her own illustrations as reference, or if she had included more of the reference photos, because that's where I was really struggling. I don't know the image that she had in mind, and when she just kind of quickly flashes it on the screen, it's hard for me to keep that image in mind the entire time we're painting without being able to revisit it. Painting along with the tutorials was actually a great source of anxiety for me. It really reminded me of when I was in grad school where a topic would be introduced, and I'm kind of a slower drawer, I'm kind of a slower painter. I would have a hard time keeping up. So those written instructions would be really, really helpful, particularly for less experienced watercolor artists who might not be as familiar with some of these techniques. And speaking of techniques, I learned several, or got to put into practice several different techniques that are outside of my comfort zone. So I really do feel like I was able to learn a lot, and I do feel like it's definitely a good value for your money, with most of the value being in the art instruction, but there is also high quality art supplies, high quality paints, high quality papers, even the brush. While I'm not a synthetics person, it is a good for synthetic. So I would say the quality is definitely there. And I'm only suggesting the written and the step-by-step photos for those of us who might have some learning differences or disabilities, who might really benefit from that more like step 1, step 2, step 3 approach, especially in an instance like this. And having that reference, I think, would just be beneficial for anybody who wants to paint along. So here's the downside, and I don't know if any of you guys feel this way. This might be for a different artist to do. This might be for a different advent calendar. This is not necessarily a flaw in Alkali Creek's advent calendar, but it is something that I have some consideration for. So I'm not going to share these on my Instagram because I was just copying what Miranda was doing, especially for the ones where I couldn't see the reference. I was just copying what she was doing. I don't really feel comfortable sharing that. And honestly, I don't really feel like, I painted these, but I was just copying her. That's great for skill building and learning. But if she had shared the reference, and if she had talked more about her thought process, a la Bob Ross, how we're thinking about things and then transposing them onto the page, I could have made it my own. I could have added my own touches. And then I would have been much more comfortable with feeling like it was mine and feeling like I could share it online and tag her. So I don't know that that's even something worth addressing. That could be just a personal point on me. I think, though, there are other artists who are at about the same level that I'm at who would probably feel similarly. So that is something to consider, that if you can find a way. And by the way, she was always encouraging that we don't have to do it the way she's doing it. If we don't want to paint that specific thing, we can paint something else. it isn't really about how she presented the material. It's just more like, because I was just copying her step by step, and except for this one, which is more my own, there wasn't any reference. I just am not really comfortable with sharing it because all I did was copy what she was doing, and I don't really feel really good about that. That doesn't mean her instruction was any less. These would work fine as like a sketchbook thing. It was great to do the illustrations, but if you're trying to encourage your audience to think of themselves as artists and to share their work online, and I have mixed feelings about encouraging people to share their work online because, you know, that's a promise you can't always deliver on, that they'll find their people. But sharing the reference and explaining your thought process more, explaining how to do the sketches, explaining what we're going for with the composition, explaining what we're going for with the light source, explaining how we're breaking down the shapes. I think that would make people who are painting along more comfortable with like taking some ownership of the finished piece and feeling like they could share it. So it's been about a week or so since I opened the Alkali Creek Advent Calendar. I wanted to give it a chance and try some of the tutorials and the projects because I feel like that's really like where the value is. That's where this box is either for you or it's not for you. So in general, I think this is a good art advent calendar, especially based on what some of my own followers and subscribers have been talking about what they're looking for in an advent calendar for artists. Every day comes with at least one project. The dry times for the project is what's really gonna like add that time in. But in general, I was able to complete most projects from 30 minutes to an hour's worth of time, especially if you have a heat gun or a hair dryer. Some of the longer ones, I just let it dry while I was working on other things. So it's not really that big of a deal. Each project is relatively accessible if you're confident in drawing with your brush rather than doing an underdrawing, if you are good at gauging scale, and if you're a quick painter who's good at following along, or if you're the patient type who will watch the video from start to finish and then paint along, I think you're going to enjoy the projects as well as the box much more. The materials inside the box are all carefully curated. There's a lot of the hand of the artist involved, and many of them are handmade or hand portioned. We have a small little metal tin that has been sprayed on the top to make it a mini watercolor palette. Every day we received a different, very full half pan of paint. You might receive Pour, you might receive Da Vinci, and it's not like she went for the cheapest paints in the lineup. There are some really good paints in here. They make sense chromatically, and the projects that she designed are designed for the paints that you actually have up until that point. It's not assuming that you've opened all of your days, and it's also not assuming that you're going to add in other colors. All of the projects can be done with the brushes that she included. You either received a size 8 round or a size 12 round. I had a size 12 round. And while that's larger than I'm usually comfortable with sketching with a brush with, it comes to a really nice fine point, and I was able to complete all the projects. The only problem I had with the synthetic comes from me not really using synthetics all that often and not being very comfortable with synthetics, in that it was dripping paint just all over the place. I had a lot of water control issues, but there are a lot of artists who like synthetic brushes, so I feel like that's more of a matter of personal preference. The papers that she included are, for the most part, Fabriano 100% cotton paper. The bookmarks, the postcards, those are also on the same paper, so they're a nice quality paper that was kind of hand curated based on her taste, which I really like. I appreciate that. And the only exception was the bonus day, which was on Khadi watercolor paper, which is a more handmade watercolor paper, but it's still a cotton rag. It was still a lot of fun to paint on. The main point of this advent calendar is to create a 12-month calendar. So she also includes calendar inserts. However, these are not printed on the calendar paper, so you could just choose to paint these and put them in your sketchbook or frame them or send them to other people. So you have some options there. You receive plenty of paint. You are going to be able to paint all 13 days because there is a bonus month or a bonus day, as well as the postcards and the bookmarks that she included.
I only did 4 of the months just to kind of get a feel, but it does seem like it's very landscape heavy. So if you enjoy painting landscapes or you're interested in painting landscapes, that could be a good fit for you. And it's not particularly reference heavy. So if you find painting from reference rather than your imagination to be tedious, you may enjoy this. The postcards and the bookmarks are a more whimsical approach. So those could also be good for people who want to just paint some other things besides landscapes, or who are looking for something a little bit more playful. I don't remember off the top of my head, I'm gonna have to double check myself here, whether or not she's also offering, there's like a deluxe. I went with the normal one and I felt like this was plenty deluxe. There is also, I think, one aimed for younger artists, but I'm gonna have to fact check myself on this one. However, I do feel like if you wanted to paint along with a younger artist and you didn't want the risks that sometimes come from painting with professional grade watercolors, including staining, you could actually buy like a yarka or a praying set and provide them with that and paint along with them. There was some additional paper in case you make a mistake or you're feeling very inspired, but if you were trying to split this set between 2 people, I would highly recommend that you buy some additional Fabriano Artist or Artistico paper and just go ahead and cut it to size for the other person. That said, you could definitely split the paint between 2 adults if you wanted to, or you could paint along with a younger artist. Everything is packed in, well, every day is packed in an individual bag. They are closed with a sticker. You could reuse the bags. I appreciate that. That increases the recyclability. And the only real downside I felt with this is there's 2. I wish she would have provided the reference image that we're painting from, whether it's her finished illustration or the photo that she's working from, for every single day. Of the 4 days I painted, she provided that for one day. This was a prompt created, I believe, in Midjourney. So I noticed in the reference there was a lot of like hinky perspective, and that actually made it harder for me to be able to paint it because I was trying to reconcile it, and then I was like, well, I'm just going to paint it loose, and then I just wasn't satisfied with it whatsoever. So that's kind of like a personal qualm on my part, but there was only one day that I encountered where she provided reference. I wish she would have provided reference for all 13 days, because she did paint these prompts and then she painted them again for the tutorials, which makes perfect sense. So she does have that reference that could have been a static image on the site. I do also wish she would have provided written instructions, because I did really struggle to keep up with what she was saying as well as what she was painting at the same time, and being able to double check against written instructions would have just been helpful for me. I processed that a little bit better. If you are doing something similar and you want to be able to pull out those instructions, YouTube does create transcripts. That is a way that you could do it, and then you could rewrite it from there. That's an option that I've been looking at as well, because many of my viewers have told me that they really prefer written tutorials. And yeah, this was a humbling reminder that I also benefit more from written tutorials, that I really kind of struggle with video tutorials, which is, well, look, in my own defense, I started with written tutorials and then Blogspot started to rot. So then I did more video tutorials, and we are where we are now. Maybe it's nobody's preference. In general, I really liked this box. I really enjoyed it. I was impressed with the quality and the curation of the materials. I really appreciated that every day had at least one activity. That's something I have, when doing art supply advent calendars, lamented that was not a common thing, and many of my viewers really wanted that as well. So I feel like this box is definitely worth the price. You're going to get your money's worth between the materials and the instruction that it provides. And I also think that it could be a really nice together activity for the holidays or any time of year. You could split this up, one calendar illustration per month and start your month off that way, like some people do with their bullet journals. So there's some stretch with how you can do this if you want to. I like that there seemed to be, and I only did 4, that's why I have to say there seemed to be a variety of landscape illustration and techniques that you could do. So if you're not familiar with landscapes, you might struggle bus. I struggle bust a little bit because when I do backgrounds, I'm not doing landscapes necessarily. I'm doing perspective gridded out backgrounds, and they're not like in the far distance. They're usually like to the end of a backyard, right? 7-inch carrot takes place in a backyard and inside somebody's house. So I'm not a big landscape painter. So there was a lot of thinking about silhouettes, thinking about certain things, water reflecting, that I just don't have a lot of practice painting. This could be if you don't mind making mistakes and having to paint things all over again, which there's nothing wrong with that. This could be a really good way to kind of get in there and get started with doing that, especially if like you can watch 1,000 videos and never pick up a paintbrush. You need that external push to do something. This could be a good way to do it. So all in all, I really enjoyed this box. I think the suggestions and tweaks that I would have to make it just a little bit more accessible are fairly minimal. It does not require retooling the whole box at all. And I really appreciate having the chance to try this out because I have reviewed 2 years of the Arteza Advent Calendar, and the first year was all right, and the second year was just the first year all over again. I reviewed the Let's Make Art Advent Calendar and was very disappointed that it was not a let's make art. It was just like, here's some stuff that's tangentially related to making art. So the Alkali Creek Art Advent Calendar was a very welcome change of pace and much appreciated. Now, this is intended, I believe, at a smaller scale. This is for the audience and fans of Alkali Creek's art and tutorials. So it's not done at this huge scale. It's not done in bulk pricing. A lot of it is handmade and would be challenging to really scale up if it took off. So I am going to kind of view it from a different lens because as somebody who makes a lot of her stuff herself, I know how time consuming making things can be. I know how time consuming sourcing things can be. I know how challenging it is to have good art supplies, but also hit a particular budget point to be able to sell it. So I'm not really going to dig in and talk like financials. That wasn't my goal from the get-go, and I think we talked about it. All in all, I enjoyed this box. I think it serves the purpose it is setting out to serve without being overly Christian Christmassy. So if you don't celebrate Christmas that way, or if Christmas is a hard time of year for you, as it is for many of us who are neurodivergent or have suffered loss or have addiction in our families, this isn't going to be an in-your-face painful reminder of Christmas. It's not that kind of box, and I really actually appreciate that. It's not trying real hard to shove the cheer down your throat. Every illustration is not like heavy religious iconography. I think there's a place for those sort of things, but I also think there's a need for things that you can just enjoy any time of year, regardless of your belief system, regardless of what trauma you have gone through in your life. And I believe that art should provide that kind of relief and that kind of respite. And I appreciate that this box could definitely be that for somebody. If you're choosing not to go visit family, for example, this box could keep you company. Miranda has a really charming and friendly personality, very low key and relaxing. The anxiety I felt with the tutorials was on me, trying to keep up. Absolutely nothing to do with her personality whatsoever. So she could make some wonderful company however you choose to spend these winter months. So I enjoyed getting to paint along with her. I enjoyed this box, and I think you guys might enjoy it too, particularly the ones who have been chatting with me about Art Supply Advent Calendars. This might be a wonderful fit for you. This might be what you're looking for. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you guys for watching all of this. I know it was a long one, but I wanted to just be as fair as possible to a fellow creator who is making these things herself. And I hope that if you want to try this box, that you give Miranda your support. You can go check out her channel. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I hope to see you guys again soon with another art supply review or tutorial. I think something like this could be a wonderful way to help you guys make art a habit. So I want to give a big thank you to my amazing patrons whose names you guys see here. It is their support that makes reviews like this one possible. Thank you guys, and thank you to my husband, Joseph Coco, who also makes reviews like this possible. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.